Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football, continuing to take a look at some of these bowl games, and we got the Sugar Bowl up on deck as the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Kansas State Wildcats are facing off. If you're looking for motivation in this game, there could be some question marks. Alabama has a laundry list of players hitting the transfer portal. A lot of the guys who are supposed to go to the NFL draft seem like they're going to be suited up, though. Bryce Young, Will Anderson, they're going to be playing against the Kansas State Wildcats team that really doesn't have any opt-outs. This is a game that I think means a lot to this program. They're one of the hottest teams in college football, obviously Big 12 champions, knocking off college football playoff team TCU. This is a Kansas State team that I've loved watching all year, and I think this is going to be a really fun game. Before we get into it, though, again, just want to say thank you guys for the support you guys have shown. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We are almost at 3,000 subscribers. And that is thanks to you guys. The support has been absolutely unreal. And we love talking ball with you guys in the comment section. Dill, I'm going to kick it off to you. Early takes here on this game.
This is an interesting one because I think anyone who was like looking at this from not knowing the context, everyone would think I think Alabama doesn't care. And why would they necessarily? They're always playing for championships. We know that. I'm obviously wildly disappointed with how this season's gone and not being in the playoffs. But you look at it, you got Will Anderson and Bryce Young both kind of saying they're going to play. And God, I would think that if those two step on the field, I can't imagine there's going to be a ton of other opt-outs because they're the leaders. They're the kind of the straws that stir that team's drink. So a fully motivated Alabama team, I think, is quite dangerous here.
And I'm kind of excited for this game because there's a lot of prospects for Alabama on both sides of the ball, especially the defense. Guys like Brian Branch, Malachi Moore, Eli Riggs, who they probably know they haven't played their best football this year. And I think they're going to be looking to have that one last game to remind everyone of how good they are. And that's probably why they're suiting up for this game. And they're going to be playing a Kansas State team that runs the ball really well. And with Walker Howard kind of the new guy at the helm, they're two-dimensional. Like, they can push the ball down the field as well. The best thing they do is just put defenses in conflict. Getting Deuce Vaughn in space is dangerous. But with a guy like Walker Howard who's come in for Adrian Martinez, they can also push the ball down the field. They use the seam really well with their tight ends. Alabama's a team that struggled with offenses that kind of spread you out and put you in conflict, like Tennessee, kind of like LSU. This is a good matchup for Kansas State. My question mark is, do they have the dogs? Do they have the athletes to compete with an Alabama team that's probably the most talented team in the country, even though they haven't played like that yet?
No, my one X factor I think going on in the offense defense matchup, or let's say Kansas State's offense versus Bama's defense, is Malik Knowles got hurt in that game against TCU.
That's your guy.
And I kind of feel like the game swung a little bit after he went down because he is the guy who can get open downfield and make those big plays. I don't know that they have much behind him. I like number 8, and I'm blanking on his name right now.
Phillip Brooks.
But he's not a big, deep threat guy. And the guys who came in for Knowles didn't seem like big, deep threat guys either. So I mean, the way you beat Alabama typically is you got to hit a few big plays. And that's obviously what Tennessee was doing pretty consistently when they won. And I'm a little concerned with Malik Knowles because, again, I just think he's a really good player and super important to this team.
And you're looking at a team that Alabama, coming off that loss to LSU, they've kind of been a buzzsaw ever since, finishing really strong, obviously beating Auburn very badly. Still thought they had an outside chance at the playoffs, and I think there's a lot of people that wanted to see Alabama in the playoffs anyways, because if this team does put it together, like, I do think they can be one of, if not the best team in college football. Now, on the offensive side for Alabama, this is where I have the most question marks. You kind of take a look at their passing attack and who they've been going to. JoJo Earl in the transfer portal, Trayshawn Holden in the transfer portal. They've lost a lot of wide receivers that they've been going to the portal. Like, who is going to be making the plays for Alabama down the field? Because we know Bryce Young's a dog. He's my number one quarterback. He's my number one player in college football on my big board. I think he is a truly special quarterback. But what we've seen him struggle with a little bit is, one, I don't think Bill O'Brien's offensive scheme has worked, and I've been kind of critical of him all year. Like, when you watch that Alabama offense, the only thing that seems to work is when Bryce Young is playing backyard football, just being the stud he is. But what the plays that they design, now I don't know if wide receivers just aren't creating enough separation, or like just the schematics of the play calling hasn't been good, but nothing's really worked for Alabama consistently like they has in years past when you have guys like Jamison Williams. I worry that Bryce Young just doesn't have enough targets, doesn't have enough playmakers on the outside, which is crazy to say about this Alabama team. But that's been the problem this year, and I don't know if it gets any better with all these guys hitting the portal.
Yeah, and I don't know that it gets like you see a massive difference because it's not like anybody's been wildly productive. So who knows how much better those guys are than the guys who will replace him at this point. But I think you're right. There is something going on with that Alabama offense that, I mean, you probably say the same thing about the defense, frankly, but I don't know if we'll see either of these coordinators back, frankly, because given the level of talent on this Alabama team, they should not have been this bad. I mean, they had a lot of close games, I feel like, and didn't blow the doors off in Ole Miss, didn't look good for most of the season. So I got to wonder if there's going to be some things shaken up in it. I don't know that you're going to do it for this bowl game, but maybe their talent can win out. But I don't know. There's something going on with that offense. I can't explain.
Yeah, so I guess we can get to the pick. I did hear that Bill O'Brien is the lead candidate for the Patriots offensive coordinator spot, which I'm sure Nick Saban wouldn't mind at all. And this offense was just so wildly disappointing with its consistency. I think it is time for kind of a new change and new faces, probably on both sides of the ball, because it really is.
Even the defense was so talented, and they were giving up a lot of yards. It's like, wow, why can't you stop the pass when you have a secondary that's probably got
You're sending 4 or 5 guys to the draft. I agree.
Well, I don't get like why that didn't work. You got Will Anderson, who's been a hammer for two. I can't remember if he's a hammer as a freshman, but obviously the last 2 years he's been incredible. I don't get what's going on. You got a pro linebacker. Again, it's not working.
And what's interesting is you look at this Kansas State team, and it's like kind of an opposite story. It's definitely not the most talented team when you look at the offense and defense, but I think the offense has been beautiful to watch under the new OC, which I've loved that fit. And then the defense, again, you have some good players like Felix and Aduke Uzama, I think is a stud, but it's not like a wildly loaded team. They're a really solid team that kind of play their 111 and play really good disciplined football. And that's why you see them having one of the best defenses in the Big 12 and one of the most efficient offenses in the Big 12. So getting to the pick, Alabama coming in as 6.5-point favorites. I'll give you mine. I still think I like Alabama. The last time we saw Alabama not in a college football playoff game, like they were motivated to play. They blew the doors off of Michigan. Kansas State, I think, is a very, very good team. I just think when it comes down to it, if Alabama plays hard and like has their guys on the field, I just don't know if Kansas State has the offense, like just the athleticism, the speed and size to match up with this Alabama team. Because as bad as Alabama has looked at points this season, they're still very, very talented.
Yeah, I mean, I probably agree with you. I don't love it as much because I get there's a talent differential, but at the end of the day, what matters is what the product is on the field. And if I'm being honest, I feel like Kansas State has, in some ways, looked pretty similar to what Alabama's looked in terms
This
of
is going to be the litmus test. We're going to see TCU and Kansas State and Texas playing Washington as a matter. Like, how good was this Big 12? Because it was kind of a conference that kind of cannibalized each other.
People hate on the Big 12, but it's like they've done okay in games cross. I mean, Alabama didn't really beat Texas bad. They probably would have lost if Ewers didn't get hurt. So, I mean, Auburn goes on gets hammered by Penn State at home. So it's like you got this like, I think this mentality that the SEC is just better than everyone else. I think, yeah, Georgia's really good, but I'm not 100% convinced that like these Big 12 teams are that far away from Alabama right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you have seen SEC teams go cross conference, I believe Missouri got spanked by Kansas State, and that was a Missouri team that went 6-6 and made a bowl game in the SEC. So this is going to be a really fun one, and it's going to be a nice appetizer, that noon game before the college football playoff games start. I can't wait for it.
People care. Like now you can't do the SEC argument like, oh, they just didn't care.
Yeah.
Obviously, Alabama cares.
And this Kansas State program is going just so much in the right direction. The fans care about this game. This game means a lot to the players in the locker room, and it means a lot to the fans. And they want to see a very good showing against kind of the bluest of bloods in the college football landscape in Alabama. This is going to be a good one. Again, appreciate you guys checking us out. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.